It's a crazy world we live in, and it would give us a bit of peace of mind if we knew what was going to happen in the future. But despite all of our shared knowledge and technology, we as a species can find it difficult to predict tomorrow's weather, let alone make accurate predictions about seismic world events in the future. That's why it's especially eerie when a video game does exactly that. I'm Joe Hendry from What Culture Gaming, and this is 10 video games that eerily predicted the future. Up first, Madden predicts the results of the Super Bowl. This year in Madden's Super Bowl simulation, not only did it correctly predict that the New England Patriots would win the Super Bowl, it also predicted how they would upset the Atlanta Falcons in the second half. In the EA play-by-play release, it states that in the second half the tides begin to turn as the Patriots exploited an aggressive defense with short passes and quick attacks, which is close enough to what actually happened to be spooky. Not only that, it also predicted that Tom Brady would be the MVP for the game, making him the most decorated player in Super Bowl history. This year was a hit with the prediction, and Madden actually has a pretty good record in the past, correctly predicting the winner in 9 out of 13 simulations. Up next, from Deus Ex, is the prediction of the destruction of the Twin Towers. Deus Ex is famously known for predicting that the Twin Towers would be destroyed as a result of a terrorist incident just 1 year before it happened. And the crazy thing is that their emission from the New York skyline initially wasn't by choice, but more so because of graphical limitations of including them in the skyline at the time. This resulted in an attempt to write around this problem, explaining that an attack had taken place to destroy the towers. Scary stuff given the timing of the release and the attack itself. Up next, Ghost Recon predicts the Russian attack on Georgia. The Russia-Georgia conflict highlighted in 2001's Ghost Recon is actually only about 3 months off when it comes to the timeline of the events set 7 years after the game's real-life release. The official game preview described the following: "War has broken out on the borders of Russia and the fate of the world hangs in the balance." Although the critics would say that tensions had been building between Russia and Georgia for a long time and that this conflict could have been seen as inevitable, the accuracy of the timing is quite unbelievable. In at number 7, Homefront predicts the assassination of Kim Jong-Il, off only by a few weeks. Go watch the game trailer, because this is a pretty accurate summary of Kim Jong-un's rise to power, and if you thought that Ghost Recon was spooky, this is off by only a few weeks when it came to predicting the death of Kim Jong-il. There's no spoilers here because you can actually get all the necessary details in the Homefront Future History trailer, but let's hope it's not too accurate though, because we could probably do without a third world war, to be honest. In at number 6, Smash TV from 1990 predicts the rise of reality TV. Smash TV is a dual-stick arcade shooter where you destroy waves of enemies. The gameplay and presentation are simple, but the setting of this arcade action game is where we find a glimpse of the future. The future being the horrors of reality TV, because in Smash TV you partake in an ultra-violent game show set in the year 1999 where you progress along different studios, taking out enemies, all for the entertainment of the viewers, baying for blood. Sure, this is a little more violent than the brawls from Jersey Shore and a few tiffs from Big Brother, but it does predict the interest in car crash reality TV, and the timing works out as well, with the game set in 1999 around the same time that the genre oversaturated our television viewing. In at number 5, The Longest Journey predicts Twitter. This critically acclaimed 1999 adventure game talks about the limitations of conversation in tweeting. Well, that's a bit of a stretch, but here's the quote. So, "Lady, you have no idea how limited bird Twitter can be. It's all hi this and here I am and all that, all day long. I haven't heard a decent conversation in days." So they weren't talking specifically about the 128 characters, but it's pretty darn close. Maybe the developers of this social media platform were fans of the game. In at number 4, Fallout 3 predicts the BP oil spill and the death of Gary Coleman. What? You gasp with anticipation? In Fallout 3, if you kill the radio host The Dog and unlock the required codes and destroy Raven Rock, Galaxy News Radio will be transformed into the number station, which makes some eerie number-based predictions. There are some outlandish predictions such as the death of the Queen and the unravelling of the known universe due to pushing the boundaries of science, but an even more ridiculous prediction in Britney Spears winning an Oscar in 2023. Hey, never say never. But let's not forget there are actually some predictions which have eerily come to fruition with terrifying accuracy, such as the 1255282010 "What you talking about, you'll be missed," which foreshadows Gary Coleman's death and catchphrase, but also the message 9454202010, "Accident in the Gulf, several dead, oil spill apparently averted." This message foreshadows the BP explosion and the infamous Day 1 assessment when it was deemed the well was not leaking. But now later on we know that it was indeed leaking and caused a massive worldwide problem. Up next, Command & Conquer Generals predicts ISIS. Many gamers have pointed out that Command & Conquer's Global Liberation Army are somewhat similar to ISIS. The GLA are described as a violent, non-state opposition to the United States that's highly decentralized whilst operating under a common banner. Sound familiar? The rules of military conduct are disregarded and civilians are routinely subject to terrorist attacks. Also, the GLA's superweapon is remarkably close to the ISIS Scud missile, and apparently the GLA were inspired by fears of post-9/11 terrorism, and it's scary how it coincides with real-life events. However, the title Dragon Warrior from 1989 goes one step further, mentioning the terrorist group by name, saying, "I hear a country named ISIS lies in the desert to the west." Up next, Final Fantasy VIII predicts the death of standard definition. In Final Fantasy VIII, when Squall comes across a communication tower, it prompts a conversation about how media is consumed in the Final Fantasy universe, explaining that whilst this tower can transmit and receive radio waves, other stations use HD cables and only support online broadcasting. Now, to be fair, the idea of high definition in online broadcasting had been discussed in the past by the likes of the BBC's Tomorrow's World and many other programs, as well as it being developed quite early on in Japan, so it's not exactly calling Final Fantasy VIII the new Nostradamus, but it is still pretty weird to see the death of standard definition being discussed in a video game in the 90s. And finally, we're on to Metal Gear Solid 2. Nope, not anything in particular, just the entire game, because it ridiculously predicts the dystopian future that we're about to walk into. It predicts the likes of NSA spying, the Patriot Act, drones, fake news, increased military intervention. There's so much. And to be honest, the entire Metal Gear series is uncomfortably intertwining with the dystopian reality that is unfolding in front of our very eyes. But of all games, Metal Gear Solid 2 is the one that creeps me out the most. Now please avoid if you haven't completed the game, because this is a mild spoiler. But towards the end of the game, it's revealed to Raiden that the Patriots, the rulers of the free world, are somewhat uncomfortable about the freedom of information. The Patriots are concerned with the rise in peer-to-peer networks, such as you could call that social media, and the rise in prominence of the many and the reduction of the power of the few. As a result, the Patriots use a censorship system and monitor all electronic communications so they can keep a lid on unfavourable information and rewrite history as they see fit. Rather creepy. Not only does it remind us of the massive NSA surveillance scandal, there may have been a Metal Gear Solid fan in the Oval Office, because the Patriot Act was signed into law about 2 weeks before the game came out. Again, to be fair, the events in Metal Gear Solid 2 seem to be a futuristic version of the events taking place in Orwell's dystopian nightmare 1984, and when Orwell was asked about how he could be so accurate, he explained that all he had to do was look at the behaviours of other totalitarian regimes. So it seems that human behaviour and the quest for power is the constant, so we're doomed no matter what happens really. So, look forward to your future and sleep tight. We hope you've enjoyed this list. I have been Joe Hendry. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter here. Also, please make sure that you like, share and subscribe. And also make sure that you head over to whatculture.com for all your favourite news, articles, features and so much more. We hope you've enjoyed this and we shall see you next time.